And so that's the thing, State. When you start talking about art and images, you better make sure you can establish that that's designed to preserve and enhance the reputation of a street gang. That's not music. That's not art. That's this violence that's going back and forth. Because when you make bold statements like that, and then it come out that, oh, this was all music, that's not a good look. That's showing you out of touch. That's showing you reaching. And keep on, that's going to show a not guilty verdict.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believing high level represent. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.
What's good, beautiful people? How you doing? How you feeling? How life treating you? It's your boy K Will. Welcome to another episode of Call Your First Witness. I'm excited to be back on the mic. Today, I want to check back into the YSL Young Thug trial. You know what I mean? What's going on? What's popping? How they looking over there in the ATL? What's new? As we know, this is a very long trial. I'm not going out on a limb by saying this is probably one of the most, it's at least slated to be one of the most longest trials in American history, at least modern day American history. Definitely it is the longest trial in Georgia. I think I read that somewhere, but one of these days I want to do my research and see if it will be the longest trial in American history, at least modern day American history. So right now in terms of days, we are over 60 days in this trial, and that's not including jury selection, but we 60 days plus into this trial. A very arduous trial, no question about it. It requires stamina from all parties involved, the attorneys, the judge, especially the jury. And although it's long and it's drawn out, it's still fascinating in my book, right? We still talking about Young Thug who is on trial, particularly for his lyrics, for his message, for his art, and for his alleged actions. And obviously there are also multiple other co-defendants involved in the case. And I just believe that it's just very interesting whenever you start looking into how the state introduces evidence like lyrics and songs and music videos and use that as evidence to say somebody committed a crime, right? And so I'm tuned in. As long as this is gonna last, it has my attention. And so, but right now we are evaluating statements made by a young man by the name of Walter Murphy. Now, Walter Murphy is alleged to be a co-founder of YSL, right? One of the original members, right? And what's interesting about this is back in about maybe 2015, there was an incident involving Walter Murphy at a Citgo gas station in Atlanta. Videos came out, testimony came out by way of Walter Murphy, and he was involved in a shooting involving individuals whom Walter Murphy was with, shooting at other individuals. Now, Walter Murphy, as a result of this incident, he was investigated. And it seemed like they called him red-handed because if you look at the trial, evidence revealed Walter Murphy carrying an assault rifle, and you could see his face clear as day at this gas station. Now, listen, y'all, I stay away from trying to figure out what folks were thinking when they committed these crimes. I'm a defense attorney, so I don't pass judgment, but it's like you at a gas station. You got to have reason to believe that their surveillance camera, I don't care if it's during the day, I don't care if it's at night, and you walking around with an assault rifle, but you're trying to conceal it in your jacket. And so every now and then I can't help but to think to myself, man, what were you thinking? But I got to remind myself, oh, you weren't thinking. Some of these cats, they get caught up in all this and they not thinking at all about the full ramifications as it relates to their actions. And you better believe Walter Murphy could not have dreamed that he would find himself in this position almost 8 years later. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Over 8 years later, dealing with this situation. And now he's on the witness stand. Now, Walter Murphy, as I stated, it appears that they caught him red-handed. Again, they got him in a video. You can see his face clear as day. You can see him holding an assault rifle, right? And it's a shooting. He wasn't the only one involved. He implicated another guy identified as Nard. They call him Nard, and he happens to be not part of this indictment. Nard was alleged, based on Walter Murphy's statements initially that happened way back in 2015, shortly after the incident, and then at another time in 2016, Walter Murphy implicates a guy by the name of Nard as also shooting at this Citgo gas station, which was the cause of a gentleman by the name of Dexter Montgomery, whereby half his head was shot off, allegedly. I didn't see the pictures. I'm told that the pictures are graphic. They didn't show any images of Mr. Montgomery, rightfully so, as he took the stand. And that makes things real, right? Whenever you have a victim who takes the stand, who says, man, and he took the stand, he said, listen, man, I'm here for justice. I'm here for justice. You got a portion of his head, his skull is indented based on that shooting. And so it makes things real. But Murphy points at a guy that goes by Nard as the one responsible for that shooting that happened on April 12, 2015, right? So after the incident, he's with law enforcement, Atlanta Police Department, and he's talking. And he's interviewed, one of his interviews, he's interviewed by a detective by the name of Detective Gaither. And he's spilling the beans. Back then, he's spilling the beans. You know, he's singing like a hummingbird. He's saying, listen, can I wear a wire? As long as I'm granted immunity, as long as y'all don't come after me, man, whatever y'all want to do, I'll do it. And you get a lot of that. You get a lot of that when folks are caught red-handed. Law enforcement got you in a situation where you like, man, let me help. How I cooperate, right? And so that's what you have. Now, he's pointing fingers at everybody. He's saying, look, this person was involved in the shooting, right? Nard was involved in the shooting. Then he's talking about an incident involving Pee Wee Roscoe, who is said to be Young Thug's road manager, was shooting at Lil Wayne's bus, right? So he didn't implicate it, like he's giving law enforcement everything he knows, allegedly, because we got to come back to whether or not this is true, because he's sitting down with law enforcement and he knows he got to deliver the goods. And so a lot of times when you have a situation, I mean, this goes back to Trontavious Stevens' situation where he testified earlier, and he was in a situation where he had to deliver the goods. And so you looking at Walter Murphy trying to get up out of this situation, self-preservation. I got to protect myself. I understand the street code. I'm scared. I don't need nobody to know. I'm sitting down talking to y'all. If I'm seen with y'all, if any information leaks out that I'm sitting down with y'all, I'm talking to y'all, I'm done, y'all. But what y'all want me to do? And so these interviews are all on tape, video recorded, right? And so eventually in 2016, Mr. Murphy gets himself a deal as it relates to these incidents. He pleads guilty to aggravated battery. He pleads guilty to aggravated assault, 4 counts. He pleads guilty to felon in possession of a firearm. And he gets about 7 years. But again, he didn't gave up a lot of people. He was looking at much more time than 7 years. So to him, that's a sweet deal. And so you got to understand that happened way back in 2015 where he initially made those statements. And then in 2016, he pled guilty. Now he has to do his time. And so he's in jail doing his time. Think about that. He's doing his time, paying his debt to society. I'm sure there are alleged rehabilitative programs that are in place. He's probably trying to do his best to get credit for good time, all that good stuff, right? New life on the horizon. He got kids. He trying to get home to his kids. He trying to get his freedom back. Let me do my time. And I'm sure he got goals. He maybe want to be a changed person. I don't know, but he's ready to get out. He's counting his years, counting his days, counting his weeks, counting his months, counting all this time, only to realize when he get out. Fast forward to 2022. At this point, he's out. Free man. Did about 7 years. Now, all of a sudden, this big indictment comes down, y'all. And guess what? Walter Murphy's name was initially on the indictment. And it was on the indictment not for some new crimes he committed, right? Not for some crimes that, I don't know, that were discovered because of the statute of limitations didn't run. Now he got to face those crimes, whether, sometimes that happens, especially when we're talking about a murder. No. The reason why his name gets caught up in this particular indictment because he has one RICO count against him. And that RICO count, conspiracy to commit RICO, stems all the way back to the charges that occurred on April 12th, 2015 that he committed and already pled guilty to. Now, he testified on the stand during this trial. He said, man, I thought that was double jeopardy. I thought we were done with this. You got to imagine what's going through Mr. Murphy's mind while this is all happening in 2022 after he's already served his time. If I'm his lawyer, I'm like, wait. What's going on? My client already served time. Why is he dragged into this mess? He took his lick. He cooperated. He did whatever he needed to do. He's well past that. But you got to understand that one count was a conspiracy charge under the RICO statute. And so because it was an offense separate and apart of the offenses he's already pled guilty to, they were able to still come after him. That was a strategic move by the state. You already know. Oh, you want to go back to jail? What you gonna do? We not done with you. You want to fight this one too? You want to put your fate in the jury? I know you pled guilty, but this is something totally different. This is a whole new ball game. This is RICO. It's not just you. It's a whole bunch of other defendants. What you gonna do? You want yourself a second deal? And I gotta believe it's one thing when you like, man, I don't want to go to jail. I'm done with all this stuff. I'll do whatever I need to do to get out of this situation. It's a totally different thing when you just finished doing time, about 7 years, and you get out. You get to breathe fresh air. You get to hold your family, spend time with them, make love to your new girl, like all this stuff, only to realize, wait, I could go back? And then I'm going back for the same thing that I did time on? So now you have Walter Murphy in 2022 in the same situation again. What I gotta do to help myself, man? Come on, man. What I gotta sign? I can't do this. What is it gonna be? What y'all need from me again? I thought I gave y'all what I had. Here we go again. My lawyer looked it up. It's not double jeopardy. Y'all got me again. What y'all need? Because I can't do this no more. I can't. And so now Walter Murphy signs a plea agreement to get off the indictment. He pleads guilty to one count of conspiracy under the RICO statute. He gets 10 years, but he only has to serve 1 year. He gets credit for time served for that 1 year, and he gets 9 years on supervised probation. Where do I sign that? Come on, man. I just want to get home to my family. So we got a plea agreement signed off by Mr. Murphy. But in that agreement, it clearly says, as a condition, we may need you to testify during trial as it relates to all your involvement, dealing with the gang, dealing with your criminal activity. We may need your testimony. And yeah, of course, you don't want to sign up for that if you the defendant. You understand that could be a very scary situation, but you just operating like off of hope. Then you just like, man, I hope I don't really have to do that. Where do I sign? Where my pen at, lawyer? Where do I sign? Because I'm not trying to go back to where I just counted my years, my months, my day. I'm not trying to go back to that environment. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. And so now they got him as a witness. This is a co-founder. This is someone who is said to be a former friend of Young Thug. They used to roll together. We gonna need you to come and testify against Young Thug and some of these other defendants as it relates to this RICO charge. That's tough, y'all. That's tough. You know, in episode 2, check it out if you haven't. I talked about how that G code ain't easy. This is on a whole nother level. That G code is not easy. Say what you want about, oh, you a snitch, oh, you a rat. That dude was put in a position where he almost, I don't even know if he had a choice. So what you gonna do? So he did what was in his best interest. And so now they calling him back to the stand. And so now he got to get on that stand and face all the defendants. Defendant number 1, who we can see very clearly, Jeffrey Williams. And see, that plea agreement is very detailed. The 4 corners of that agreement, they gonna list everything in there. You need to define what is YSL. And they got in that plea agreement that YSL started off as a record label and it evolved into a street gang that committed crimes and violence, and all that's itemized in a plea agreement, and Walter Murphy signed off on it. His signature is signed off on saying it started as a record label, but then it evolved into a street gang. He signed off on saying, yeah, these are some of the signs. We wear red, we wear green, Young Slime Life. Nah, it's not just a record label. It's a street gang associated with violence, associated with committing crimes, and it's a bunch of us out here. He signed off on that. Again, where do I sign at? I mean, most of us cannot identify with that scenario because most of us don't have to deal with looking at going to prison. But just think about a situation where you want something so bad that you don't care what the fine print says, you just like where I sign at. I don't want to talk about the interest rate on that loan. All I know is I need a vehicle. Where do I sign that? I don't care after, 3 years, that interest rate on that mortgage may balloon and double my mortgage. I don't care right now. All I know is I want this house right now. Where do I sign that? You're not reading that fine print, right? You'll cross that bridge when you get there. Walter Murphy told himself, if I got to testify in front of all these defendants, I will cross that bridge when I get there. But right now, I'm trying to go home. And lo and behold, they call him on that witness stand. He been on that stand for days, y'all. And I don't think the state done with him. And here we go, get on the stand. Now you got to save face. Now you're very careful with the way you respond. You're being very evasive with your responses from the state because you don't want to look like that dude. You don't want to look like that snitch. And you're not trying to go down like that. And so you skirting, but at the same time, you like, man, this was part of my plea deal. So I can't just totally dismiss all this because this may have consequences as it relates to my freedom. And so you're trying to walk this fine line between, I don't know, saving face, but at the same time cooperating. And it's just a very, very ugly situation you in. And you can't win either way. It's a bad spot. And so now you denying certain things that you originally said. Now, Ms. Hilton, one of the other prosecutors, is asking questions to Mr. Murphy. Hold up, you forgot about this? You don't remember back in 2015 and 2016 when you told law enforcement who you were with? You were at Young Thug's house when they came and arrested you, and you were scared that Young Thug's father would see you talking to the police? You don't remember all that? And of course, the safe bet is, I don't recall. And so you better believe the state gonna pull up that video and remind you, back in 2015, this is what you said. Back in 2016, this is what you said, right? He gets on the stand and he says, listen, man, I told y'all whatever I needed to tell y'all. I told the investigators whatever I needed to tell them. I just was trying to get out of jail. I would have cut my arm off. I was just trying to get to my son. And folks could relate to that. And the jury can understand that. And the defense definitely is echoing that. So what is it? What's true? What's made up? When you sat with the police back in 2015, 2016, and you told them whatever you needed to tell them just to get out, what is true? What's factually accurate? What did you make up? What you didn't make up? And Ms. Love set it up in her opening statements. She said, listen, some of these witnesses going to get on the stand and I don't know what they're going to say. So at the end of the day, can we really believe or give any credence to what they told the police when they initially told them? Or can we give any credence to what they're saying on the witness stand today? And that's the big issue whenever you're dealing with suspects, co-defendants, people who initially start off as co-perpetrators and then now they want to help themselves. How do we know they're telling the truth when they provide this information? It's simple. Can we look at corroborating evidence? At the end of the day, when I'm picking a jury in all my trials, I say, listen, if the state presents witnesses that you just kind of don't believe, and they done presented all the witnesses, and after carefully listening to the witnesses, at the end of the day, you just don't believe what they said, what your verdict needs to be. Gotta be not guilty. But in the same vein, if the defense presents witnesses and you realize that everything they're saying, you just can't believe what they're saying. You can't give any credence to what they're saying because maybe it didn't make sense and there weren't any corroborating evidence. So now let's say you have to compile the state's witnesses whom you don't believe and the defense witnesses whom you don't believe. What your verdict has to be? It still has to be not guilty. No matter what. Because at the end of the day, the defense does not have to prove their case. The defense does not have to prove their innocence. And so at the end of the day, if the state's presenting just witnesses whom are past co-conspirators, pled guilty for the crimes they committed, did their time, and now you pulling up their plea forms, you pulling up their past videos with them saying X, Y, Z, but you don't have any corroborating evidence and you leave the jury like, I don't know what to believe, that has to be not guilty. And so, listen, I've been checking in. I'm not going to be the one to say I've been on this case from day one, but every time I tune in, at least as it relates to Young Thug, I'm just not seeing a whole lot of dots being connected. His main charge is a conspiracy charge. Count 1 and then count 56, participating in gang activity. That's his 2 charges. But all we're hearing is other incidents of individuals that somehow are associated with YSL, but I haven't heard any definitive answers that are pointing that these actions were at the behest of Young Thug. And so you got that going on. And as Mr. Murphy's on the stand, then you got Brian Steele, Young Thug's lawyer, getting up and say, listen, we understand your involvement on April 12th of 2015. Was Young Thug there? Did Young Thug tell you to do this? Again, that's Brian Steele's biggest thing, distancing Young Thug from this incident. Because what we have been seeing is, yeah, we got incidents with people who may be associated with YSL, and Mr. Murphy has a YSL tattoo, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's doing this at the behest of Young Thug. And that's the main thing. Nobody told you to go. Young Thug didn't tell you to go do that. You're operating on your own. And Matt Sharp, Shannon Stillwell's lawyer, saying, hold up, when you committed all those crimes, weren't you high? Weren't you on a whole lot of drugs? Weren't you on Molly's and all this kind of stuff? So he's painting a picture like, listen, nobody's telling you to do this. You out there wilding out, man. So we can't place responsibility on anybody else. And so we have heard from Sergeant Gaither. She has experience in investigating gangs, and so she testifies that she can identify certain gangs. She has knowledge about the Rock Crew. Y'all, there's a whole lot of alleged gangs. We got Rock Crew, that stands for Raised on Cleveland, and then it evolved into ABG, Atlanta Blood Gang, or something like that. And it also stood for Sex, Money, and Murder. And then at some point, they evolved into YSL. Yes, YSL was a record label, but it evolved into a street gang. She's talking about how she knows the signs. And then also there's If Gang, which is a rival gang of YSL. If Gang stands for Inglewood Blood Gang or Inglewood Family Gang. And so there's a particular incident that Sergeant Gaither points to back on January 10th, 2015, where a gentleman by the name of Donovan Thomas was murdered. Donovan Thomas was said to be a high-ranking member of If Gang. And after that incident happened, you had YSL and If Gang just going at each other. Right? A slew of shootings, drive-by shootings, robberies on social media, back and forth. So Sergeant Gaither is talking about this rivalry, and she said, listen, I left the force back in 2020, and this stuff, when I left, it still was ongoing. But I found interesting, y'all, and I'm not going to keep y'all too long. I'm going to probably leave it right here. I found it interesting that Adrian Love, in a questioning of Sergeant Gaither, she talked about an album cover. Here we go, bringing up the lyrics. And she puts an album cover on the screen, and it's a picture of, it looks like a skull of maybe an eagle or a hawk, and then it has a snake going through the skull, a lime-colored snake. And so, of course, the snake signifies young slime life. And according to Sergeant Gaither and Adrian Love, the bird skull is associated with Bird Gang, and somehow Bird Gang is some, I don't know, affiliate or derivative of If Gang. And so what the state and Sergeant Gaither are trying to say, yeah, I'm investigating all these gangs, and that album cover that was pushed by YSL is an image sending a message to Bird Gang, right? Because they're rivals. Problem with that is other folks are saying, hold up, what are you talking about? That skull, that bird skull, that eagle is associated with Future. And that album is a collaboration of Future and Young Thug. The name of that album is Super Slimey. It was released on October 20th, 2017. It did well on the Billboard charts. They did their thing. You got two very hot, prolific artists making money, doing their thing. And you mean to tell me Adrian Love and Sergeant Gaither, y'all plaster this on the big screen and saying that's gang activity? I could see the defense lawyers just salivating, can't wait to get up there and say, wait, let's talk about this album cover. I've been saying this the whole time. It's coming. Matt Sharp, Shannon Stillwell's lawyer, is coming. Keith Adams, the brother attorney, you see him sitting side by side with Young Thug. You better believe he coming with it. Let's talk about this album cover. And so that's the thing, State. When you start talking about art and images, you better make sure you can establish that that's designed to preserve and enhance the reputation of a street gang. That's not music. That's not art. That's this violence that's going back and forth. Because when you make bold statements like that, and then it come out that, oh, this was all music. This skull is associated with Future. That's not a good look. That's showing you out of touch. That's showing you reaching. And keep on, that's going to show a not guilty verdict as it relates to Young Thug. Again, I haven't seen it yet, and I don't want to get in the habit. Y'all know me, I don't like critiquing lawyers, but I haven't seen substantial evidence thus far, and we in the 60s in terms of days, y'all. And listen, I don't want second guess, I don't want question, but at some point you got to think, was anybody thinking that if you carry this trial out a little bit too long, you might lose the jury? And we at the point where the judge, we didn't heard the judge then went off on the lawyers, both sides. Went off on Brian Steele, went off on Matt Sharp, went off on Adrian Love. The judge is letting everybody have it, right? And his biggest thing is, man, y'all slowing this trial down. I got a jury. And we keep stopping to deal with these evidentiary issues that y'all should have dealt with a long time ago. But listen, a lot of that stuff is beyond the defense's control. It gets hard for the state. Trials take a life of their own. Y'all, an average murder case takes about a week. All right? That's no co-defendants. That includes maybe you spend a whole day picking a jury, and then the rest of the 4 days you dealing with evidence. You're dealing with witness testimony. And throughout that week, you're going to have some back and forth. You're going to have the judge going off on you. The judge going off on the prosecutor. You're going to have all that stuff happening. Now, what you're seeing here is not just one murder trial. You got a murder trial wrapped up inside a RICO case with multiple defendants and a lot of logistics and evidentiary issues that normally you would see that can prolong just a one defendant case. Now we got it prolonging a multi-defendant case. But the biggest thing is all the evidence that you promised the jury, State, and opening statements are not landing the way you thought it would land. That's just my perspective. I'm a little slanted as a defense lawyer, but at the same time, I'm looking at it both sides. And I came out from the gate and I said, listen, Adrian Love delivered a powerful opening statement. And I believe her message can resonate with the jury that she has, but she got to back it up with evidence. And so far, maybe it's just me. Maybe I keep tuning in on the off days. I'm just not seeing it as it relates to Young Thug. I could see reasonable minds in that jury can infer that, listen, y'all, do we have some members who doing some very horrific things that may be associated with YSL? Perhaps. Some of them did their time. Some of them maybe weren't held accountable. I understand they got all these acts in furtherance of the conspiracy that they tried to establish against Young Thug, but I'm just not seeing any substantial evidence to say Young Thug is the head honcho and he's calling out all the orders. He's telling folks, if he's not the one doing it, this is the evidence that ties him into these actions. I don't want to jump the gun. I know the trial is no close to ending, but if you going at this pace, I got to believe folks from the state side saying, hold up, we might need to be more efficient with these witnesses because we don't want to lose this jury. So y'all, that's where we are right now. I'm going to stay tuned, and I'm going to continue to see what's going on with Walter Murphy. They may call him back to the stand. I don't think they're done with him. I do anticipate them presenting videos from his statements back in 2015 and 2016 to try to impeach him. But yeah, it's interesting, y'all. I'm going to stay tuned in. I appreciate y'all time, man. Please subscribe. Please share. Please like. Let folks know about me. We're covering what's popping, y'all. You know, they got a few things that may be coming down the pipe in terms of other cases. You already know your boy going to be tuned in. But for now, that's my time. Check y'all later.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believe in high level representation. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.